Fate of a downtown Atlanta condominium high-rise could be in the hands of the Atlanta City Council tomorrow. They could vote on new restrictions to short-term rentals. Senior investigator Rebecca Lindstrom spent time in the building where she says the tension there is as thick as humidity. And I know something about that, Rebecca. What's exactly happening here?
Yeah, I figured that was a comparison that would hit home with you. The Landmark has always had short-term rentals, or STRs, long before platforms like Airbnb and Vrbo made them mainstream. The building has about 200 units, but what used to be about 20 STRs has now flipped to only about 20 full-time residents, and some of those are really unhappy about that change. They say the building wasn't designed to handle the demand tourists bring, and they say the lobby feels more like a hotel than a home. The elevators keep breaking, the AC, which is shared by the entire building, can't keep up, and the windows are in the stairwell, well, they're busted. I think we even saw birds that were growing and, building a little nest in one of the little window alcoves there.
Wow. What can the city do about this?
Councilmember Michael Julian Bond wants the council to vote on a measure that would cap short-term rentals at 10% in buildings like the Landmark, but only if the community votes to have them at all. Now, that would be a big change for a building like the Landmark, where, as we said, 20 STR units would now only be allowed if this passed. Now, they brought up the issue. They wanted to vote on it in July. That committee said, no, let's hold it until after our break. And so their very first meeting after that break is tomorrow. And that's why we've been trying to figure out if this is going to be on that agenda. There are questions about grandfathering, even if this does pass. Would that apply only to those who meet the current legal standard in the city, or would that be any STR that is currently operating? The city did pass, you might remember, we've talked about this before, STR rules in 2020, but they stopped enforcement shortly after, and that has actually been one of the delays. They've just not been doing anything. The council doesn't want to pass more rules if they don't have a clear legal path to enforce them.
Yeah, I understand you had a chance to talk to some of the Landmark board and some of the investors. What did they have to say?
Yeah, we really haven't heard their voice a lot in this, so I wanted to make that effort to reach out to them. Board member Jamie Waters sat down to talk with me. He rents out his unit and he lives in his unit, so he kind of splits it. He says the city, they have it all wrong. He says the community has kicked the can on maintenance issues for too long, and now there are a number of expensive repairs that need to be made. He says as a real estate agent, he says these problems are the same in every old building, not just ones with STRs. And Rachel Liu, who owns or manages about 50 units in the building, says investors like her are what is keeping that building afloat. She says sales are really slow right now, and the primary interest is coming from investors who know the building's location and that it makes it great for tourism. So she says if STRs can't operate, she doesn't believe regular homeowners will come. I asked Michael Julian Bond what he thought of this argument.
That's an interesting argument, but it is the current board of the condo association at the Landmark that has brought the building to its current state. They have driven out, owners who have lived there for decades with their practices and management. So, to come back now and say, oh, well, we're going to sink with the Titanic, when you're the one who drove the Titanic into the iceberg in the first place on purpose. So, I don't really put a lot of stock in that argument.
So Rebecca, the HOAs depend on getting those dues to help pay for these maintenance repairs, but Landmark seems to have some big ticket items. Are those repairs getting made right now?
To some extent, but admittedly, some of the disgruntled homeowners have stopped paying their dues. One owner says her monthly dues have gone up more than $400 in the past 2 years, and she's been billed $5,000 in special assessments. It's a lot of money. She says there are just people who can't afford that, but when you stop paying, well, then you face foreclosure, and that is one of the things that she is facing now. Still, though, those HOAs, like you said, they need that money in order to make those repairs. Chesley?
Right. Thanks a lot, Rebecca. Really appreciate it. Now, tonight at 11, you can hear directly from the HOA board and investors as they explain why the city should not put a cap on short-term rentals. We'll be looking for that. And if you have a tip for Rebecca, check her out. You can call her at 404-873-911 or email her at investigates@11alive.com.